In this section we're going to show you how to do a woven body. Woven body gives you a segmented body, but not the same way as we would tying a rib body. It uses two different materials to make the body, and we weave the body onto the shank of the hook. There are a number of different ways of achieving this weave, and we're hoping to show 3 different methods to you on this video. We'll tie all of the different types of weave on the same hook so you can see as they develop. First of all, we'll take some thread and simply take our turns down the shank of the hook towards the bend. Like so. We now want 2 different coloured materials. With this one we're going to use some black and some orange. We've got some micro chenille. For practice purposes, the heavier the material, the thicker the material, the easier it is for you to do your weave to start off with. So we'll tie some black dark chenille on the far side of the hook and tie some lighter coloured chenille on this side of the hook and tie them into place. And simply tie those in along the shank of the hook like so. We tied them in place. We can bring our tying thread back. Now we need another piece of the lighter chenille. The thing with the woven bodies is they will not create a shape. They will follow the shape whatever your underbody is. The best thing to do is to make a nice round underbody for the chenille to follow. So we'll take our chenille, simply create our what seems to be a fat underbody, but this will help us when we do our weaving. Simply take your chenille along in fairly smooth touching turns to a point there. We can tie off and we can snip that off like so. So now we've created our underbody, we've got our chenille set up to create the body. The best way to do this now is to turn the vise through 90 degrees like so. We're now I'm facing the eye of the hook, you're looking down from the bend. The first weave we will do, we don't need to cut the thread. We can leave the thread hanging on. With some of the types of weave that we may be doing later on, we will need to cut the thread and reattach it later on. So simply take the 2 strands of, we want the black on the top and we want the orange underneath. So the first turn we will do is to take the black over the top, that forms a loop. Put the crochet needle through the loop underneath the shank of the hook and simply pull the orange through, tighten down so that the black is firmly on the top. The next turn is that the orange goes underneath, so the crochet needle goes on the top. Like so. And we pull tight once again. The black goes over the top and the needle goes underneath. and so forth and so on. We carry on. We go a little bit further with this one. Each time we simply tighten up the black goes on the top, so the crochet needle goes underneath. Now the orange goes underneath, so the crochet needle goes on the top. And so we work our way along the shank of the hook. Do that once more. And there we have created the start of our body. If we were to turn it over, you'd see that the orange is underneath and the black is on the top. All fairly straightforward. And we've been able to leave the thread on. The next type of weave we do will be what they call a half hitch weave, and for this we will need to remove the thread. So we tied a couple of half hitches in, we cut the thread off. When we've finished with this weave, we will need to reattach the thread to finish off the thorax or the head or whatever you're doing later on. So with this one we simply tie a knot. We simply tie a single half hitch knot there. We want the black on the top and we want the orange underneath. So we simply thread it over the eye of the hook and tighten. The next time we do another half hitch. We want the black on the top and we want the orange underneath, and so forth and so on. We carry on. We simply put another half hitch knot, we put the black on the top and we put the orange underneath and simply tighten. One more knot. Like so. And yet another. And so we progress along the shank of the hook. We always leave the black on the top and the orange underneath. Do one more. And there we have our half hitch, and we still have all of the orange underneath and we have all of the black on the top. The knot is slightly different to the one we did with our crochet hook, but nevertheless it creates the same effect that we have one colour on the top and one colour on the bottom. The final one we will do is a thing called a shuttle weave, and with this one we simply come over the top, come underneath. That's it. Once you get started, it's fairly straightforward. The black goes on the top and the orange goes underneath. The black goes on the top and the orange goes underneath. The black goes on the top and the orange goes underneath. Orange underneath, black on the top, orange underneath, black on the top, and we've come to the end of the shank of our hook. Now we'd simply retie our thread, and we've got one where we've crossed over from the one weave to another, If we find that's happened, simply undo the weave. As easy as that. And simply start again. So we've undone the shuttle weave assembler. So there are 3 different types of weave that you can create to give you your woven body. As we always say, practice is everything. Start with some fairly thick material. It will forgive you so that you don't get an uneven body. Suede chenille, micro chenille is perfect to start with. Start with a large hook to give you the practice. Tie the body, take it off the hook, tie it again, repeat the process. Then as you get more proficient, then you can go to some finer materials, down to some flosses to create a smaller body, but the essence will be exactly the same. The process will be the same. The next type of body we're going to tie is a detached body. These tend to be used more for large flies, daddy long legs, ephemera danica, big mayflies. It allows you to tie a large fly on a relatively small hook. We won't need the fly tying vise to create the body. The body is created off the fly entirely. What we need for the first one is a fairly straightforward 6-inch ruler, plastic ruler, and some Copydex glue. The Copydex is a latex glue, household glue used for gluing fabrics, cardboard, paper, general purpose. And all we need to do is simply take some of the Copydex glue, take a blob of the glue on the back of the ruler like so, and we spread it about across the back of the ruler. Try and get it nice and smooth if we can, not too many humps and bumps, and we want it to spread about 6 or 7 centimeters down the ruler like so. Spread it nice and as evenly as you can across the back of the ruler. Then we want, for a mayfly, we want some tails, and the tails are simply some pheasant tail fibres, and we attach them in the middle to the glue, and we leave it. This will take up to 2 hours to set. One of the things to do is, if you're doing a series of them, is simply to do 2 or 3 of these at any one time, put them to one side and allow them to dry. Now, in true Blue Peter fashion, here's the one I did earlier. The glue has dried quite firmly, we have no tackiness, and all we need to do is to roll the glue off the ruler. We use our thumb to get started, like so, and simply roll the glue down the back of the ruler till we reach the pheasant tail fibres. They will then incorporate inside the latex. We continue to roll it to the end like so, and there we have our latex Copydex body. Simply roll it level flat so it's nice and smooth. It'll still be tacky, so we can't actually tie it in yet. We'll leave that for 24 hours on a piece of paper, and that will be ready to use tomorrow. We can tie our detached pheasant-tailed Copydex mayfly. Tie the body in at a convenient place, and we'll do that on another occasion we'll show you how to tie the whole fly. So that's the Copydex one. That's one of the fundamental ones that we would have. Another type of fly which is traditionally used in this sort of material will be a deer hair bodied. Now these are used quite extensively for daddy long legs. For that we need either a darning needle and you have fly tying vise, or a tube fly attachment. It makes no difference which one you have. One will work as well as the other. In this instance we've got a tube fly attachment simply because it's on the vise at this moment in time. So we take our tube fly, and in order to make it easier to remove the detached body at the finish, we recommend that you just apply a small amount of Vaseline, petroleum jelly to your tube fly attachment. It just allows you to remove your finished body. In this instance we will simply do a daddy long legs. We won't bother with the tails at all. We'll simply do the straightforward body. We take some tying silk, tie in a small amount there. Don't go the full length of the tube at this instance. Cut off the scrap. The next thing we want is simply a bunch of deer hair. The colour is entirely up to you. Depends on what you're tying with. A light bodied daddy long legs, dark bodied, need some darker deer hair. Simply take a bunch of deer hair, remove the fluff from the bottom, take the tips. We don't need to match the tips up, simply snip the tips off like so, and then simply attach them to your tube like so. One loose turn, one a bit tighter, and finally finish them off firmly like so. Next thing to do would be to take the deer hair that we've got, bend it back over the tube fly attachment, tie it in quite firmly like so, 3 or 4 turns, half a centimetre, another 4 or 5 turns. Therefore we're creating our segmented body. And gradually just work our way along the body till we get the length of the body that we're aiming to produce. So if we go as far as there we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 segments. And all we need to do now is to come back, repeat the process, a whip finish or half hitch, whatever you wish, over the last segment, tie off, cut the thread. To remove the body, simply twist, turn your vise round or twist with your fingers, and gradually take the body off, and there we have. And finally, the last thing to do would be to put just a small blob of varnish on the end of the body. That will just secure the tyings so that nothing will come undone. And there's your finished detached bodied deer hair, ready to be applied for your daddy long legs. As I said before, if you put some pheasant tail fibres into it, then you've effectively done what we did with the first one. So that's our deer hair. Finally, the last one that we can show you will be a slight variation on the latex one, and that involves some raw sheep's wool, unwashed, straight from the sheep. The best source of supply is usually a barbed wire fence. So take your sheep's wool, pull the strands out so they're nice, fairly straight. That's it. And we've got them nice and they're usually quite long. So draw them out and simply, without any further ado, you grease your tube again. This again helps us to get our body off the needle, and simply take our sheep's wool, tie it in like so, and then gently travel up neat turns until we get where you want to be. So we got a body so long. Fairly straightforward. We get our Copydex glue and apply and rub it in to our windings. Just squeeze so that the glue penetrates the wool like so. Maybe a dab more. And we squeezed it in, that's it. The glue has now soaked into the wool. We simply take finger and thumb, again rotate the fly tie device, ease off the body, and there we have, and simply by rolling it between finger and thumb, between the palm of your hand, and there's your body pre-formed. Once again, leave for 24 hours and the whole thing will harden up, and that will give you a body using the latex, but will give you greater strength than you had with latex on its own. It will certainly withstand more than one fly. You can tie the body with tails in. You can then, if you wish, put ribs on. It's entirely up to you, the whole thing. But the basic body is simply wool and Copydex glue. And having done a series of those, put them to one side, leave them for 24 hours, and then we can use them in our tyings later on.